Glad you all are here today. Take your Bible and find Ephesians chapter 4. Would you do so? Ephesians chapter 4. Hadn't it been a beautiful day so far? A little on the chilly side this morning, and yet beautiful afternoon, a beautiful week ahead of us. I am Dave Young, and I get to address you this week, and I'm really honored to do so. Always love coming to Cleveland. A lot of memories in this place, and a lot of teenagers I've preached to down through the years in this auditorium and on this property, and I see a lot of them around the country even now as they're serving the Lord, and that's always an awesome, awesome privilege. And I hope that certainly will be true for you. I do have one wife, and if you haven't met my wife, I hope you will. Beth and I have been married 26 years, have 5 children. Abby's married to a guy named David. They live in Lancaster, California. My Joshua's married to a girl named Bethany, and they live in Camarillo, California. They both serve on staff at different ministries. And then my Matthew is a sophomore in Bible college. He's studying to be an evangelist. And then I have Jacob. He's 16, the age of some of you. He's doing school right now, so we're a little bit behind, so he didn't make it to chapel. But Charity is with me as well, and she's our 10-year-old. She will be 11 next month. And you know what she wants for her birthday? She wants a puppy. And you know what I'm going to try to get her? A puppy. I want a golden retriever. You pray about that with me, all right? And so I only need $900 for the puppy I want. I've already looked at him, and it's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. So pray with me about that. And I don't know if she's worth that amount of money or not, but I wouldn't mind having the dog, and I'd be worth that amount of money. So we'll pray about it, and we're seeking the Lord about it. But she's very excited. And she's been praying every night in devotions, in our family devotions, that she wants a puppy. And so we're looking forward to seeing what the Lord's going to do there. I'm a dad, so I like dad jokes. Do y'all like dad jokes? If you were in church last night, I told one of my favorites. How many of you were here last night? Were you? Last night I told about why the lifeguard did not rescue the hippie. How many of y'all heard that one? Did you hear that one? That's one of my favorites. For you that didn't hear it, why did the lifeguard not rescue the hippie? Because he was too far out, man. Come on, you know that was good. At least smirk. You know about the restaurant they started on the moon? How about, did you hear that one about the restaurant on the moon? The guy started a restaurant on the moon. They reviewed it and said, the food is great, but it has no atmosphere. This is a tough audience right here. Is this being recorded? Is it live? I mean, like, are they broadcasting it live? It's live. Oh, I should be careful about this joke, but I'm going to tell it anyway because I saw the hay bales this morning that reminded me of a joke. Did y'all know what this is terrible. I can't believe I'm going to tell this. Y'all know what a transgender horse eats? Hey. Oh, my soul, that is terrible. And if you say that I told you that, I'll deny it, all right? I will deny it. Of course, it's recorded, so I guess I can't deny it. It's on there. All right, I'm in Ephesians chapter 4, and just look, if you're going to tell somebody that joke, don't quote me, all right? Because you got to be careful about that stuff today, and you got to be very wise because of the world we live in. Ephesians chapter 4 is a transition chapter in the book of Ephesians. The book starts in the first 3 chapters with doctrine. If you want to know a fancy word, they call that orthodoxy. And then it transitions in chapter 4, 5, and 6 to our practice, our behavior. And if you want to know a fancy word, we call that orthopraxy. So the first half is orthodoxy. That's what we believe. The second half is orthopraxy. That's how we're to live because of what we believe. So if you know Christ as your Savior, these verses are for you. And it begins in verse 1 with the words, I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that ye walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you're called. Now let me talk to you kids just a moment. Are you aware of the fact that God Almighty calls us to be saved? You're aware of that, aren't you, girls? That Jesus calls us to himself. How many of you have experienced that in your life? Do you remember when you knew, goodness, I'm a sinner, and you knew Jesus died for me, and you knew I'm the one that needs to get saved? I remember that happened in your life, do you? And it's different for everybody. God speaks in a variety of ways, in different ways to our hearts. But if you're saved, you will remember the time that God was working on you. God was speaking to you. God was calling you. And not only does he call us to be saved, he calls us to live the Christian life. So if you're saved, God's called you to live for him. And he's called you to succeed. And he talks here in these coming verses about the church and our responsibility to be in church and to be under leadership in the church and to learn God's word. And then he gets very practical in the remainder of the book, starting in verse 17. And this is where the Bible says these words. In verse 17 of chapter 4, this I say therefore, and testify in the Lord. Watch this now, this is key. That ye henceforth walk not as other Gentiles walk in the vanity of their mind, having the understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of God through the ignorance that is in them, because of the blindness of their heart, who being past feeling have given themselves over to lasciviousness, to work all uncleanness with greediness. But ye have not so learned Christ, if so be that ye have heard him, and have been taught by him, as the truth is in Jesus, that ye put off concerning the former conversation the old man which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and put on the new man which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness. How many of y'all know these verses, do you? Are they familiar to you? They're loaded verses, and you ought to know them. Here's basically what he's trying to say to us. He's trying to tell us there's a wrong way to live. There's a wrong way to live. You're a child of God. You're saved. You're on your way to heaven. There's a wrong way to live. Because he says in the 17th verse, this I say therefore and testify in the Lord, that ye henceforth walk not as other Gentiles walk, now that you're saved, now that you're on your way to heaven, now that you're a child of God. Don't live the way the world lives. Smile at the person beside you. Nobody here but us. Everybody find a partner and smile at them. Go ahead, smile at the person beside you, everybody. Smile at them and repeat after me. Smile at the person beside you and say to them, that's no way to live. Say it a little bit louder, one more time, one more time. That's no way to live. Tell them. Tell Evangelist Nicholas Anderson, look at him over there and say to him, Nick, that's no way to live. It's no way to live. Here's what he says. Are y'all with me on this? Here's what he says. You're a child of God. Don't live like the rest of the world around you. Don't walk as the other Gentiles walk. That's no way to live. That's a wrong way to live. That's a wrong way to live. Y'all follow that? It's a wrong way to live. Say that with me. That's a wrong way to live. Preach it, girls. It'll feel good, all right? Here's what the Bible says. Everybody, guys and girls, that's a wrong way to live. And so he tells us why. He tells us we shouldn't live that way, and here's why. Look at the end of verse 17. Because the world around us, their thinking is wrong. See that little phrase there at the end of verse 17? In the vanity of their mind. Here's what he means by that. Don't live the way the world around you lives, because their thinking is wrong. Y'all with me on that one? Their thinking is wrong. In verse 18, having their understanding darkened. Their understanding is wrong. Right out of the text. You take notes right out of the text. In verse 17, the vanity of their mind tells us their thinking is wrong. They have their understanding darkened. In verse 18, their understanding is wrong. They are alienated from the life of God. They don't have the life of God. In the last phrase there, the blindness of their heart is wrong. I skipped one. Did you see the part I skipped? I skipped one part there. Their ignorance is wrong. I skipped that on purpose because I want to talk to you about that a moment. You know what the word ignorant means? It's a good word, and it's a word teenagers know. Their ignorance is wrong. The word literally has the idea of dumb. They do dumb things. Are you teenagers? Do teenagers do dumb things sometimes? Teenagers get up half asleep and put the cereal in the fridge and the milk in the pantry. We do dumb things. We try to brush our teeth with our razor. Okay, maybe not that one, but we do dumb things. We all do. But the world around us does dumb things, is what he's telling us. So here's the whole point. That's no way to live. 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 You got to get that in your heart. Here's the whole point. That's no way to live. That's a wrong way to live. That's a lousy way to live. That's a terrible way to live. Nobody ought to live that way. The world is greedily going the wrong direction. Did you see that in verse 19? He says they don't just do uncleanness, they do it with greediness. The world around us goes in the wrong direction greedily. And perhaps there's never been a generation like ours in which this is evident on every place you look. Everywhere you turn, it is evident that the world around us doesn't just do wrong, they do it greedily. They don't just go the wrong direction. They go the wrong direction in a greedy way. I saw a tweet the other day, and I took a photo of it. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. And it kind of caught me off guard just a little bit. Listen to this. This was from the Fight the New Drug Twitter site. They said in their tweet, data reveals that some 60% of the world's porn sites, about 428 million individual pages, more than one per American, 60%, 428 million pages are hosted in the United States of America. 60% of the garbage on the internet is hosted in our land. You tell me, is Paul right or wrong? That's no way to live. That's no way to, why would you go that direction? That's no way to live. He's just laying out for us a truth here that is so powerful. This I say therefore and testify in the Lord, that ye henceforth walk not as other Gentiles walk. Don't live that way. Don't go that way. Their thinking is wrong. Nobody but us this morning. Let me get real close to you, all right? I'm going to come right down here and get real close to you. Their thinking is wrong, all right? Now stay with me. You can think. You're brilliant kids. You're Christian school kids. How is the world's thinking wrong? Can you think of ways? How is it? What are some ways the world thinks this way, but we know that's a wrong way to think because we have the truth. We have the Bible. Can you think of any wrong ways the world around us thinks? Yes, sir.
Gay rights.
Gay rights. Just went right to the top, man. He nailed it. How many of you agree with that?
Amen.
The world around us says, oh, homosexuality is just harmless. It's no big deal. It's not that big of a problem. It's, in fact, you know the mantra they have? Do you know, you've seen it, I'm sure. Love is love. Love is love. That's the mantra of the world around us. First time I ever saw that, I was watching a football game. How many of you like football? I like your orange pumpkins up here because I was thinking yesterday somebody should come in here and put a white tee on them for Tennessee. Don't you think? That would look so good. That would look so good. I'm a Tennessee Volunteer fan. I love the Vols. I love orange and white, and I love football. I was watching a football game one night, which is a very manly thing to do. Give me an amen. And I was watching this football game, a very manly thing to do. Give me an amen. Amen. And as I was watching this football game, it went to a commercial. It's been, 5 or 6, 7 years ago. It goes to a commercial, and on the commercial, it shows like this like it's almost like a sheet, and you can kind of see through it, and you see silhouettes behind the sheet, and you see two people. Is this a term teenagers still use? When I was a kid, they would have said they were making out. Did y'all still use that term, or is that like, does it mean worse? When I was a kid, it basically meant they were kind of like, all right, that kind of thing. Is that what it still means, or does it mean something bad? It still means that, so it's okay to say that? So I'm like, oh, can't believe you said that. So that's okay to say? So here's two people behind the screen, they're making out, and then the camera watches them as they walk out from behind the screen. It was two guys. And here's what the screen says. Love is love. Goes back, here's the screen. Here's two people, they're making out. They come around the screen on this side. It's a guy and a girl. Love is love. Goes back to the screen. Two more people. They come around this side. It's two girls. Love is love, the world says. See, here's what the world is trying to do. The world is trying to get us to think incorrectly. How do you argue with that? Love is love. How do you argue with that? They love each other, for crying out loud. Why can't two people that love each other get married? So what if they're two guys or two girls? Who cares? They love each other. But here's what we know as Christians. What the Bible wants you to know is that's a lousy way to live. That's a wrong way to think. Because love is not human sexuality.
That's right.
Love is sacrifice. Which is why Jesus says, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. A person who genuinely loves sacrifices. They give of themselves. They give up their rights and their desires for the good and the better and the advancement of another. Do you see how the world is thinking wrong? Son, you're right. The gay rights issue is wrong thinking. And so many in our generation can't think right. Can you think of other ways the world around us is thinking incorrectly? You think of other ways? There's a ton of them. You got to, I've got them, but I want you to help me. Yes, ma'am. On abortion. Is that a huge one or what? I mean, that's been something that's been part of my life as long as I remember, because Roe versus Wade was passed when I was a baby. And now abortion's legal in our country. Who would have ever thought we would be debating on political platforms whether or not it is okay to take the life of a baby after it's been born and is breathing and is alive? Abortion's gone way beyond what they call a fetus now, into it's a baby and it's alive and there it is and you can hold it and you can hear it crying and you can tell if it's a guy or girl. But we don't want it, so we can take its life. Abortion is a terrible way to live. What a horrible, horrible, horrible blight on humanity. Life is valuable. And I will tell you, I'm a daddy. I have 5 babies. We've had 5. There's no doubt the babies are alive in mommy's womb. We had one baby, and it was so hysterical. I think it was my Josh. And Josh, when he was in mommy's womb, he liked his feet rubbed. Because you could see a little silhouette. He would push his foot up against mommy's belly, and you could see the little foot. And I'd get down and I'd rub his foot. And when I'd rub his foot, he'd push back. So I'd push in and rub his foot. He'd push back. And the kid was always like, if he heard my voice, he got to the point where you'd see the foot. He's like, rub my feet, Father. And it was the most amazing thing in the world. And my Abigail loves Southern gospel music. We didn't know that, but we were in a church one Sunday morning, and they had a Southern gospel group singing. And she's in the mommy's belly, here's my wife, great with child. And she's sitting out there, and I love watching my wife when she was expecting our babies because she would rub her belly all the time. She's always rubbing her belly. And I just thought it was the most adorable thing in the world, because that's a baby in there. And I'd always talk to the baby. I'd be like, hello, Abigail, this is your father speaking. And I talk to the kids all the time. We pray with them. They're alive. That's a real baby. And this Southern Gospel group, they started singing this song about, how did it go? It was, I'm going to let the glory roll when the roll is called in glory. And the crowd starts clapping like this. And it was the most amazing thing. I was sitting with my wife, and my little girl, she's in the belly. And I think she was dancing. She was like... And it was the most amazing thing. The belly's like, and my wife goes, I think she likes this kind of music. She little wicked sinner. And she's alive. And the world around us says, no, that's not a living soul. That's not alive. You can take that life, and it's no big deal. The world is wrong. Isn't it amazing what the Bible says here, how it applies in our generation? So we've got the gay rights issue. We've got abortion. Give me a couple of others. Can you think of others? Yes, sir. Weed. Well, how about that one? That's a little step down from where we were there, but it's true. The world is wrong. It's addictive. It's damaging. It hurts. And shame on you if you're smoking weed, because you are not doing what's right. All right? How about a few more? That's good. Yes, sir. Selfishness. Boy, that's true. My way, my way, my way. Which is why so many people are angry. Sometimes I hate being on social media, because you get a little thread going on social media and people are like, argh. It's because of selfishness. What a lousy way to live. Families are so full of hate and anger and selfishness, and doors are slammed and people raise their voice. It's no way to live. That's a lousy way to live. That's what Paul is trying to say. Give me more. Give me more. There's a ton of wrong ways. Yes, sir. Alcohol. That's a big one in our generation. So many people in our generation, even in the church, are like, well, it's not that big a deal as long as you drink a little bit. And they quote verses like where Paul told Timothy, use a little wine for thy stomach's sake. And there's several things that I've noticed about that verse, is that actually it has a negative along with that statement. And the negative says, drink no longer water, but use a little, keyword, wine, keyword, for your stomach's sake, key phrase. So if you're going to take that verse to say that it's okay to drink alcohol, then first of all, you also have to take that verse to say you shouldn't drink water. So the fact of the matter is, if you had to drink of water today, if that verse says you can drink alcohol, if you've drunk water today, we'll have an invitation in a moment, and I want you to come up here and get right with God. Lord, forgive me for drinking water. I apologize. I'm sorry. That doesn't make any sense. So whatever the verse says, it must be a special case. So he says, use a little. So whatever wine he's talking about, use a little bit. A little is the key phrase there. Use a little. And then he says the word wine, which is the Greek word oinos, which has two meanings potentially. On the one hand, it can be fresh grape juice from the vine. Oinos is a drink from the vine. So it can be fresh juice. You bring in the grapes, you stomp them, and now you got juice flowing in the vats. That's oinos. If you store it for a while, it can ferment, and now it's alcohol, and that's oinos. So when he says use a little wine, it could be fermented or it could be unfermented. And it was normal for things to be fermented in those days because they had no refrigeration. And if you stored juice very long, it would get some fermentation to it, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. And if it had a lot in it, they watered it down so that it wasn't damaging as you drank it. And then he says use it for a little wine for your stomach's sake. It must have been something to do with a medicinal purpose there. But here's the whole point. You can explain all the verses, but the fact of the matter is, the Bible has far more warnings about alcohol than it does verses that would seem to say, okay, a little bit is all right. There's a ton of warnings. The Bible says, woe to the person that gives it to a neighbor. If you sell it to somebody, if you make it available to others, God promises a woe in your life. The world around us says it's no big deal, but Christians should say it's a big deal. See, we got to think the truth. Am I making sense? There's a ton of ways we think wrong. Let's think of others. Can you think of others? Yes, sir. When it comes to purity. That's a big one in our generation. I'll preach a whole sermon probably about that this week. So I won't park a long time here, but that's a really big one. Oh, it doesn't matter how you live. Even in the, I always hate bringing this word up because it's an awkward word, but it's a word your generation knows and knows too well. That's the word porn. I mean, if you have one of these, you don't have to try anymore. If you don't have a filter on this, if you have one of these and there's no filter on it, you don't have to try. You can see porn. In fact, the world calls Instagram Insta-porn. Because 30% of the pictures posted on Instagram are considered pornographic by the world around us. It's a joke. Snapchat? Snapchat can be used for fine things, and some of you use it. But Snapchat also has a lot of pornography on it. And it's the world we live in. We've got to go overboard to be pure in our generation. The world around us says it's no big deal. Here's what the world will say: oh, porn is just harmless entertainment. No, it's not. It's addictive. It's damaging. It deadens our thought processes. It damages our future relationship with our spouse. It's a deadly, deadly, deadly matter. The world around us is wrong. Are you getting the idea? This is no way to live. Isn't what Paul said amazingly on target? This is no way to live. Here you and I are, 2,000 years after he said it, and what he said is as on target this morning as it was when he said it 2,000 years ago. The world is wrong. Their thinking is wrong. It's true in purity. Did somebody have another one? Did you have another one, Patrick? What is it? In dress standards. Wow, that's a big one. Because the world says, oh, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what you wear. It doesn't really matter. But God says it does. God says it does. And there's obviously different ways to apply things. But the fact of the matter is, God warns us that we ought to dress in such a way that we promote the gospel. Not our bodies, not ourselves. And you know, the weird thing is that there was a time when I first started preaching that you would never have had to talk to guys about dress, because that just was, guys, it wasn't a big deal. We always talk to girls, but girls, how many of you are aware of that? Sometimes you got to talk to guys now about dress. Guys can wear some really dumb things, can't they, today? And we got to be careful about it, because the world says it's no big deal, but it is a big deal. And we got to be wise. We got to ask God for wisdom. How about this one? Girls, this is a big one for you. You know how the world around us thinks? The world around us says only people with perfect bodies are beautiful. That's what the world around us says. Only people with perfect bodies are beautiful. That's a result of the pornography industry. That's a result of so many of the sociological implications of our day. But the world around us is wrong about that. Guys, even some guys battle this bodily image in our day. Well, you know, I'm too fat. There was a girl we counseled, and she was like, I'm just so overweight, and she was starving herself and making herself sick because she wanted to lose weight. And I said, sweetheart, how much do you weigh? I mean, 98 pounds. I mean, you want to be serious because you don't want to be mean to people, but here is a girl who looks like that. I mean, she's like this skinny. I mean, like she has like one stripe in her pajamas. She probably has to run around a shower to get wet. I mean, if she turns sideways and stuck out a tongue, she'll look like a zipper. I mean, she's like so skinny. She's like not there. She doesn't even have a shadow. She's so skinny. There's no shadow. And yet, I'm overweight, and I weigh 98 pounds. Oh, bless your heart. But you see how the world is so wrong? If you don't have the right hair, if you don't have the right eyes, if you don't have the right makeup, and if you don't weigh the perfect weight, then you're not beautiful. And I will tell you that is absolute stupid thinking. Have you guys ever seen a guy, and he wasn't necessarily the best looking guy in the world, but he had an absolutely gorgeous wife? Yeah. Have you ever seen that? And you're like, how in the world? How in the world? Stop it. How in the world did he get her? The better question is, why'd she marry him? You've seen that, haven't you? Haven't you seen a girl and she's like she's just like, okay, the Lord loves her. And but she's married to this like stallion, this handsome, he's got the chin and the biceps like Brother Young, and he's just stallion. And you're like, how did he get her? Well, here's the whole point, and we're joking about it, but don't miss it. According to the Bible, we're more than bodies. We are more than our bodies. We're more than hair and eyes. We're personalities. Which is why sometimes can you believe that guy's overweight? Let me tell you something. Have you ever been around a happy person that's a little overweight? And they're like happy. And you're like, dude, I wish I had some weight so I could be that happy. And they're just like fun to be around. Like I got this friend, and he's a little overweight, and he and I several years ago with my son and his pastor's son, we ran the color run in Castle Rock, Colorado. You ever run a color run? It's where you run, they throw color on you. You come out and you're like pink and blue and yellow and red and all these colors. And I mean, just say it's a dumb run, but it's a cool run. And so we ran this run, and it was 5K, and quite frankly, he couldn't do it. Well, he couldn't do it because he's a weightlifter, 24 hours a day. And he's carrying quite a bit of weight around with him. But we ran ahead of him, and we finished the race before he did. And yet I absolutely loved running with him that day because he was so fun. He would look back and see a crowd gaining on him, and he'd start running. And as they ran by me, how y'all doing? This is my second time through. And then go by and he go. And then at the fight, when he got to the last, you came around a curve, and the last little stretch is about as far as this auditorium. And so he said, you got to take photos of me, guys. You got to take photos of me. So we got our cameras out. All right, we're going to take. So he'd go back and carry people across. You're like, come on, I'm going to carry you. And he grabs somebody. He goes, and we got all these cameras, videos of this guy running across. I mean, he's a big guy, but he's so fun. Somebody's like, can you believe that guy's overweight? Yeah, well, he's a great guy. See, here's what we got to do. We got to say, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. I have love handles. I must not be beautiful. Well, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but you're going to have them. Just write this down, smile at your neighbor and say, it's coming. Tell them. It's coming, guys, it's coming. Because here's the idea. Oh my goodness, you guys are like, I'm just telling you right now, I got a six-pack. I will promise you that six-pack will turn to a 2-liter someday. And you write that down and underline it in black, because that's the truth. Because here's the idea. Our world says only people with perfect bodies are beautiful. And it's because our world is dumb. How about this one? You know this one? Evolution. The world says you're an accident. The world says, well, it's just we're just an accident in this cosmic process of evolution. And we don't know really how we got here. We believe years ago, historical science. That's their word now. Historical science. Historical science is science that cannot be measured, it cannot be observed, and it cannot be reproduced. Historical science is a made-up theory. It says, well, you know what? We had to come from somewhere, and obviously there's not a God, and so God didn't make us. So apparently somewhere years ago there was this huge explosion, and over millions of years little cells began to form, and the cellular structure started, mutating, and eventually here we are, and we're going to die, and hopefully evolutionary processes will continue. We're going to die, but hopefully the evolutionary processes will continue. And I'm telling you guys, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just a theory. It doesn't even make sense. It's not even possible. Nobody's ever proved it. Nobody's ever seen it. And yet the world you live in says, it has to be. No, it doesn't, because Christianity knows the truth. You are designed by a living, gracious, loving, kind Father who made the world. And He made you. Paul is warning us about the danger of wrong thinking. How many of you like YouTube? Do you like YouTube? How many of y'all like YouTube? Do you? YouTube's amazing, isn't it? I mean, how many videos are on YouTube of old people falling down? You're like, hey, you got to see this. Isn't this great? What's this guy? My kids are like, Dad, you got to see this. You got to see this video. One of my favorite ones they showed me the other day. And it was there's a security camera. And there's these two guys, and they're getting ready to break into this building. And so they're looking. You can see they're carrying bricks. And looking around, make sure nobody's looking. And they're going to throw a brick through the door and break into this building. And so looking around, and the one guy gets his courage up, and boy, he winds up, and boom! So the other guy was encouraged. The other guy, he winds up, and he boom! And he hit his friend right up the side of the head with a brick. Knocks the guy over, and the guy like, he's laying over. I said, rewind that, let me see that again. That was good stuff right there. How many of y'all know what I'm talking about? YouTube is hilarious. YouTube is like Studio C. I mean, and it never ends. My kids, you got to see this one. Oh, you got to see this one. Oh, you got to see this one. Oh, you got to see this one. You got to watch this one. You can spend the rest of your life watching stupid videos on YouTube. And there's nothing wrong with laughing. But how many of you are aware of the fact that for every every video that's on YouTube that has truth, there could be many others that have falsities. And a lot of teenagers, they have questions. So, they're not close enough to mom or dad to ask mom or dad about something. So they go on YouTube. The next thing you know, you're watching misinformation. Kids, this is not the information age. This is the misinformation age.
That's good preaching.
And we got to be wise about our thinking. Here's a big one. Transgenderism. I got to tell you, this one confuses me because I would have never dreamed that I would have to preach about it. Who would have ever thought that I'd have to stand and talk to young people and adults in this generation about how to think right about transgender? You know what evolution said when I was a boy? I went to public school, and evolution said this: the reason we side with evolution is we believe in science. That's what they said. We reject the Bible, it's not scientific. We side with science. Now, because we have gotten wiser as creationists, and we prove that there's nothing in evolution empirically scientific. So they've come up with a new word, which is where we got the phrase I just mentioned, historical science. We agree there's no empirical evidence for evolution, but historical science says, and so now they have a new term because they still side with science. But here's what's amazing. Now we have this issue called transgenderism that rejects science.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you know, science says, no doubt about it, every person in the world, deoxyribonucleic acid says that every person in the world is either male or female. There's no middle ground. It's not like you can combine the two. It's male or female. And if by chance there was a discrepancy in those two, what science says is there's an error. That there's a negative mutation that has to be corrected for this person to live a normal life. But that's a very rare mutation. Because when you go to the hospital and you have your baby someday, the doctor, I promise you, will either say to you one of two things. Hey, you got a baby boy, or you got a baby girl. People used to say to us all the time when we were traveling, we were in churches all the time, you know, and my wife, it was obvious she was expecting a baby. She was great with child, and people would say, what y'all going to have? And I'd always say one of two things. What y'all going to have? I'd say, a baby. Well, I know that. Is it a boy or a girl? And I'd say, well, there's a 50-50 chance it'll be a boy or a girl. And it's just always true. If that baby's going to be a boy or a girl. But here's what we live. Our generation says, okay, wait a minute. All right, you're a guy, but you don't want to be a guy, so you can be a girl. So you're a girl and you don't want to be a guy, or you don't want to be, you're a girl and you don't want to be a girl, you can be a guy. In fact, if you're a girl and you don't want to be a guy or a girl, you can be something else. You know, this is getting weird. Let me tell you why it's getting weird. In the United Kingdom, some months ago, over the last number of years, in the United Kingdom, there's how do you say this right? There is I'm just going to say it. There's a female that decided she didn't want to be a female. She decided she wanted to be a guy. So now they call her a trans man. Okay, got the picture? She's a trans man. Or it's a trans man. Or he's a trans man. I'm not sure if it's it, he, or she, but this person is a trans man, all right? So this person is an adult, this person's a trans man, and this person decided, I want to have a baby, okay? This trans man is still, by biology, a woman. So she goes to the doctor, and they do this scientific process, which is legal and viable and okay, as far as I can tell. So she has a baby now inside her, right? So she has a baby, or this person has a baby, all right? So they're in the United Kingdom, they have a baby, and now you got to do this. When you have a baby, here's what they do. They pull out a piece of paper, say, all right, now we got to fill out the birth certificate. This is very legal, all right? What you going to name the baby? And so here's what we're going to name the baby, all right? Now, what's your name? Because you're the mother. And this trans man says, oh, I'm not the mother. I'm the father. And they were like, no, you just had the baby, so you're the mother. Because the person that has the baby is the mother. No, I am the father. No, you're the mother. So they put mother. They put him down as the mother. They put this person down as the mother. All right, so this person sues. They went to court. And the judge just recently solved the case. And here's what the judge determined. This is the court's decision. You are the mother because a mother is the person that has the baby. But just because you're a mother doesn't mean you're a woman. Now, honestly, is that not the weirdest thing in the world? You have a baby, therefore you're a mother, but just because you had a baby and are a mother does not mean you're a woman. Are you kidding me? So are you a mother or a father? Well, I don't know. I had a baby, but I'm a father. But you can't be a father because you just had the baby. Yes, I can because I'm a father. No, but you had a baby. Well, I'm a mother, but I'm not a woman. I'm a man. And you're like, are you serious? Kids, I'm telling you, who would have ever thought? Who would have ever thought that your generation would have to deal with this? Who would have ever thought that we'd have a generation where we'd have to go to chapel and say, all right, let's talk about transgenderism. The truth is, and the Bible is so simple, and science is so simple, everybody in the world is a man or a woman. And if you're a man, here's what the Bible says, be a man. If you're a woman, be a woman. God designed you that way. And there's no way to combine the two. Anytime you have a girl who says, I'm going to be a guy, it gets weird. Am I right, girls? It just gets, am I right, guys? It just gets weird. If you have a guy, it's, I'm going to be a woman. I'm sorry, it gets weird. And it matters how you think. Do you see what the Bible's trying to say to us? It matters how we think as Christians. Here's a big one. I'll give you one or two more here, and I'm going to be moving on and stopping. I say this one gently and softly, and I say it because I keep having to counsel it. This is how the world thinks. Same-sex attraction means you're gay. And I want to tell you something. I categorically reject that. Amen. Do you know that it's normal in the heart of every guy? Look at me, guys. It is normal in the heart of every male to want masculine affection and affirmation. Girls, it is normal in the heart of every girl to want feminine affection and affirmation. God has a wonderful way for that to happen. It's called the home. In the family, God designed the family to work in such a way that every family should have a daddy and a mommy. And the daddy is a loving leader who affirms his children and shows them affection. There's something special to have a daddy in your life who says, just want to tell you something, son. You the man. If I could line up all the men in the world, all the guys in the world, and choose one, I'd choose you. There's something special about that. I said, I'm so proud of you. You're an amazing guy. Girls, there's something special for a guy about that. We live in a world in which 80% of teenagers growing up in our world don't have a mom or dad in their life. The kid down the end of the street, at my house, where I live on, the lane I live on, in Pensacola, Florida, Milton, Florida, the kid down at the end of the street, his name's Trey, and he's a great kid. We love him. We're praying for him. We've taken him to church. We are working on his family. That kid, his mama doesn't want him, and his daddy didn't want him, and he lives with his grandparents. And his dad died of a drug and alcohol abuse when he was 30. Here's my friend Trey, and he's on the verge of really ruining his life. His uncle's in prison for stealing. His mom is, I'm pretty sure, making meth. Their life is a shambles. Their home is a mess. It's a sad situation. Trey has nobody in his life to affirm him. He doesn't have a dad in his life to say to him, Trey, you're a great kid. And because of that, here's what's filled that void. Girls, it's what's filled the void when there's no mom that has the time to show affection and to affirm. There's no mom. And the world around us is saying, all right, we are progressive. We have finally come to the place where we can live without parents. But the world is wrong. And every one of us, we desire it. And I say this gently, maybe you don't even need to hear this today. But because I keep counseling it from Christian young men and young ladies, Bethany and I, just because a person battles this thing the world calls same-sex attraction, doesn't mean you're gay. Amen. It means you desire the affection that God designed you to desire from guys and girls. That's all it means. And don't let the world tell you, oh my word, because you really long, guys, to have a guy affirm you, you must be gay. Don't you buy that. That is a flat-out stinking lie. It is wrong. No, you're just normal. You're normal. And it's okay. And God will help you if you'll let him. He'll be a father unto you. He'll come into your life and be the father unto you that you don't have if you don't have a daddy. He'll care. He's there. His word is truth. One of the reasons in the church you need to get to know some of the older guys is because, guys, you need men. And if you don't have a dad in your life, talk to every older guy in the church and get to know them. You'll find out that there'll be guys that'll care for you. Girls, there are ladies in the church that need to have a teenager talk to them. And you'll get affirmation. See, in the old days, here's what would happen. When you're about the age you are right now, your mom would come along and teach you how to cook. My daughter's 10, and last week my wife taught her how to make biscuits, which means her husband's going to be a big man someday. And so she taught her how to make biscuits, and really all she did was watch Mom roll it out. As she said, but then my wife let her cut the biscuits, and form them. And then when we sat down to eat, I always get my wife's chair at the table, so I helped my wife. I seated my wife, and then we're going to have prayer. And you were there, weren't you? And I said, "Thank you, sweetheart," to my wife. "Thank you, sweetheart, for the meal." My charity says, "Daddy, I made the biscuits." And my wife goes, "She did." And here's my little 10-year-old girl. She's like gleaming. "I made biscuits." You know what the world around us would do? The world around us would be like, "Well, that's dumb." Because you go to Walmart, you walk into Walmart and go back to the video game section. Achieve greatness. And here's some video game. Like you can be great doing this. That's dumb. And see, the world around us is so wrong. Guys and girls, here's what I've come to this first chapel to tell you as we start this week together. There's a wrong way to live. There's a wrong way to live. There's no way to live. The world around us, their thinking is wrong. Can you all see that today? Their thinking is wrong. Can you see that their understanding is wrong in verse 18? They don't have a clue. They're alienated from the life of God. I'll preach about that in the morning. Their ignorance is wrong. They do dumb things. How many of you agree with that? Do you agree with that? That the world around us just does dumb things. What a dumb way to live. Here is Trey. He's a cute little boy. He's going to be a man in a few years. And his mom doesn't want him, and she's got 5 other kids by 4 or 5 other guys, and his daddy didn't want him, and his daddy's now dead, and his uncle lived with him, but he's now in prison for stealing, and I think he just got out and moved in with his girlfriend. What kind of girl wants a guy like that? He just got out of prison. Move in with me, buddy. You just got out of prison, I'll take care of you. What in the world is wrong with this country we live in? It's because the country around us does dumb things. How many of you agree that's a dumb way to live? What a dumb way to live. What a dumb way to live. Guys, it's just as dumb to allow yourself to be 16 years old and be addicted to pornography. That's a dumb way to live. Girls, I say this as gently as I know how. I'm your friend. It's a dumb way to live to ridicule biblical femininity in this generation. It's okay to be a girl. Doesn't mean you're weirdly second class. Girls, don't let guys be your standard. You don't want to be like guys. They're weird. They're important, but they're not girls. God designed us differently. You girls don't want a guy that's a girl, do you? I mean, you don't want to marry a guy someday and find out that he's soft and he cries every time he doesn't get his way and that would be like stupid. I mean, well, that's a dumb way to live. It's okay to be a girl. It's okay to have a sweet spirit. Guys, it's okay to be a man. Amen. Don't we need some more men, girls? That's right. It's okay to be a man. Guys, it's okay to stand up and talk right and walk right and be a man. Take a stand for what's right. Don't live. All of us do dumb things, don't we? Have you ever done something dumb? Honestly, have you? We all do dumb things, don't we? When I was a kid, my dad taught me to drive when I was 11. And we lived on a farm, so driving was important on the farm. So I could drive a stick shift. I mean, it had a little steer, had to shift gears on the column. It had a clutch, and I learned to drive when I was 11. So one day I was mowing the yard. I was 11 years old, mowing the yard. And my dad, he farmed, but he also worked a factory, and he worked 3rd shift. So he'd work from 11 o'clock at night till 7 a.m. He would come home and sleep for 5 or 6 hours, and then get up and farm and go back to work that night. So my dad was in bed, but my job was to mow the yard. So I mow the yard. When people work night shift, you can set off an atomic bomb beside them and it didn't wake them up. And so I was mowing the yard, but my daddy's out. He's out. So I was mowing the yard, and I noticed under my daddy's pickup truck in the yard or in the driveway there was grass growing. And I thought, I'll be a good dad. I'll be a good son. I will back daddy's truck up and mow the grass under daddy's truck. So I went in the house and I went into his bedroom very quietly, and I got his keys. And I eased the door shut, and I went out, and I cranked up the truck. This is going well. Put that thing in reverse, and I start backing up. I'm looking over my shoulder. I can barely reach the pedals, and I'm backing up. And I left the door open, and there was an oak tree beside Dad's truck. And I'm backing up, moving pretty good. And I heard this horrible crunching sound. And you know how doors, normally you open a door and it's like this? Well, my dad's truck door was like this. It was flopping around. I thought, I am dead. I am going to meet Jesus today. And I couldn't, my dad's truck door is the wrong direction. My son, it was a dumb thing to do. I left the door open while I was backing up, and I hit a tree with the door. It was a really dumb thing to do. I've done some things that were dumb that were pretty big deal. Others aren't that big a deal. I was in Liberal, Kansas not long ago, and I was preaching, and I got something sticky on my fingers, and I went to the men's room to get whatever it was. I don't know, what in the world? So I went up there, they had one of those automatic soap dispensers. You ever seen one of those? Those are so cool. You're like, zoop, you got some, like, this is really hard to do, so we got to get an automatic one. And so I got me a little automatic soap dispenser, and I'm soaping it up, getting this sticky stuff off. And then I couldn't get the water on. You ever done this? I'm like, I can't get the water to come on. I stood at the side, and I tried the floss. I did everything I could to get the water to come on. I couldn't get the water on. So I step back and I look at it, and that's when I noticed something. It had a handle. And so I just pushed that little handle up, and I had water. I was so glad nobody was in there watching me. That was such a dumb thing to do. Here I am standing in this men's room trying to get the water to come on automatically, when that water doesn't come on automatically because it's got a handle. That was a dumb thing to do. We can chuckle about some dumb things, can't we? My son Matthew, he loves to run. He's a runner, avid runner. And twice he's been attacked by pit bulls while he's been running. And one day he came in, his shorts are like all riddled and shredded. And he had to beat a pit bull off of him while he was running as it tried to attack him. And so for his 18th birthday, I bought him a present. I bought him a little flashlight, a little weapon, flashlight. But it was no ordinary flashlight. Had a little button on the bottom, and you turn the little button on, and had a little button opposite of the flashlight, and you could push that little button, and it was 55 million volts of electricity. It was awesome. And he was just like, zzzz! I tell you, the dog will leave you alone. The dog will leave you alone. Just stick that to that little baby and pull that little button, and the little dog will make a really high-pitched sound. And it'll run. And you're safe. The dog will run. So I bought my son one of those. And a few days after I bought it for him, I was reading a book in my living room at home. And he comes in the hall and he's like, hey, Dad, I got an idea. I go, yeah? He's like, let's try it. And I'm like, I got a better idea. You try it, and I'll videotape it. So this is my son. He's like, okay. And so he gets that thing up, and he's like, he's ready to go, and he's got a tank top on. And so he gets it up there, and he cheats. He hits it. He's like, and he jumps across the room. And I'm like, dude, that's cheating. You just barely touched it. Put it on there like a man. And here's what my son does. My son's like, okay. So I get this is going to be good. I got my camera, go ahead. Doesn't bother me a bit. And sure enough, he takes that thing and he puts it on there like this. Are you ready? Are you ready? And he rolls it. It was great. Didn't bother me a bit. He's jumping all over the living room going, And so I said, did it hurt? And he's like, yeah, it hurt. And I always want to turn that into a GIF. Yeah, it hurt. But I couldn't figure out how to do it. That's a dumb thing to do. Can I close this chapel by telling you something, kids? It's a dumb thing to live like the world. I want you to walk out of this chapel realizing that. It is a dumb thing to live like the world. He says here, through the ignorance that is in them, the word means dumb. And I say this gently. I don't want to be mean about it. But the fact of the matter is that when you and I allow the world to tell us how to think, we allow the world to tell us what's right, we allow the world to tell us what we ought to believe, then we're living in the same dumb way they live. You got a brain. You can drive down to the end of our road and visit my friend Matt and his family The house is filthy. You have to wade through cigarette smoke, and somebody's graffitied on the wall outside the garage. Mom has more tattoos than clothes. And a tattoo's not the end of the world, but it does say something. And when she's there, she cusses, and the family's a mess. I say this as gently as I know how. That's a dumb way to live. You say, well, but what if I know people, Dave, that live in 3-story houses and they don't know God. But I even say, according to this text, that's a dumb way to live. There's no joy, no real peace, no real victory. If you went up the street 5 houses from Trey, you'd find our house. Their van is newer than mine. Down at Trey's house. Their van is newer than mine. They probably have more money than I do. But I wouldn't trade places with them for anything in the world. Because kids, that's no way to live. The way the world lives, it's no way to live. Move up the street to our house and join us. That's a good way to live. Here I am, 50 years old on my birthday, and happily married. I got 5 kids, and 2 are happily married, and all is well. God's so good to me. And guys, you have a bright future. You know Jesus? Then don't live like the world. You on your way to heaven? Then don't let the world tell you how to think. Don't go to YouTube to find out the answers to human sexuality. Go somewhere and find the truth. Protect yourself from garbage and evil and error. Girls, don't let the world around you ridicule you for being the girl God made you to be. You're beautiful. You're designed in His image. He cares about you. And you got a bright future. What Paul said 2,000 years ago is so much on target today. There's a wrong way to live. There's a wrong way to live. Tomorrow I'll preach to you in chapel. I'm going to talk to you tomorrow on that one little phrase here where he says, the world around us is alienated from the life of God. We're going to talk about that tomorrow in chapel. I'll probably preach one message to you about how to live a godly rated life in an R-rated world, a G-rated life. I won't be hard or difficult, but I'll tell you it's a wonderful way to live. You're going to find the next few days a wonderful way to live, all right? So here's the lesson. Smile at the person beside you and say to the person beside you, that's no way to live.